I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Jenny David,
Here.
Craig Scott,
Here.
Ron Vaughn,
Present.
Brad Newbecker, Mark Serbrook.
Present.
Are there any additions or corrections to the agenda, commissioners?
None.
Item 2, public comment. Is there any public comment in the room related to agenda items only? Any public comment on the phone? Item 3, appointments. 3A, we have Karen Puglowski related to the land bank appointments. Come on up. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you. I have 3 members of our land bank authority board. Their terms are expiring at the end of this year. Alan Bruder, Denise Simmons, and Dave Reesner. I would like to renew Alan Bruder and Denise Simmons. They have requested that they would like to be serving on the board for another term. Dave Reesner has been inactive on our board, and we would like to replace him with Leanne from our housing department, who has some grant writing skills to bring to our board. However, there's a little snag. She's not a resident of Ogemaw County. She lives in Roscommon, and we have Tim found a clause in our intergovernmental agreement that says she has to be a resident. So I'm working with the state to do an addendum, which my next meeting is December 14th with the land bank board, so that we can pass a resolution for that request. Then it has to go to the land bank board at the state. And I believe it may also have to come in front of you for approval as well. So we got some hoops to jump through. So if we can have Alan Bruder and Denise Simmons terms renewed, and then I will probably come back for your next meeting.
Think that can happen that quick?
I don't know. It's in the works. I had a meeting with the state yesterday by Zoom, and we have a land bank board meeting on the 14th of December. So if everything falls into place, otherwise we'll be in January.
If not, is there somebody else in the housing department that could
Well,
would be interested?
that's who our board
Mhm.
would like to see because of
Yep.
the grant writing skills. And right now there is an opportunity to apply for a $200,000 grant through a state blight elimination program that we're working on. And her skill set would be beneficial to our board.
Absolutely.
So if we get those 2 renewed, and I'm in the works to have a 3rd.
How long is their contracts or their terms?
Are
Yeah.
on a meeting
3
basis
years.
of 3 years.
Questions, commissioners?
Tim, is there anybody that's signed up on the website to serve on any committees?
No, not, the only ones we've had have been veterans, and I think Jeff is gonna bring that at a later date.
Okay, okay.
Commissioners, so we'll have that as a resolution at the next for definitely for the Mr. Bruder and Denise Simmons.
Thank you.
Thanks. Item 4, discussion items. Item A, indigent council agreement.
We had this agreement in front of you. Let's say about 2 months ago. We just had the regular agreement that you've seen over the years. But as we've been doing since we've had our attorneys on retainer, we had the attorney review this, and you'll notice several items added now to this contract. But several pretty standard items, for instance, the insurance requirements, the independent contractor paragraph, non-discrimination clause, and issues in here about compliance with the law. Nobody's has a third-party beneficiary involved and so forth, but just the standard language that we want to see in all of our contracts to make sure the county's exposure is minimized. Otherwise, all of the amounts that are in here, the terms of the attorneys and so on, are exactly the same. And so it is now ready for a resolution to adopt.
Lawyers have all seen this and
Yes,
approved.
they have. And the dates on this will be retroactive to the 1st of October, the 1st of the fiscal year. It was absolutely no fault of the attorneys under contract that we delayed it. But I do believe it was worth it to get the language in here that helps protect the county.
Questions, commissioners?
Between this one and last year, the last one, and in money.
To me, there's a 2% increase And this is all funding that is through the indigent defense grant that we received from the state. So we actually budgeted it this way.
We already approved the 2% increase,
Right,
correct?
yes.
So that's not anything new. So what is new?
Well, pretty much starting from that third page where it talks about insurance, item 14, from there on, it's all accurate.
Okay,
The declaration of the independent contractor, very important for the county to have that in there. Just again, in the indemnification language that's in here, all new but standard in most contracts.
Didn't we used to have more attorneys? There's
Yeah.
5. I thought there was
Morris used to be one of them.
Chris
practically,
Juarez used to be.
so it almost looked like the phone book for lawyers.
Yeah, right.
Wow. They don't want to do this kind of work, or are they all asked whether or not they want to participate, or?
I can tell you, I don't know about that process.
With our circuit, I know like Roscommon only has 2 or 3, I think. This is actually quite a few. More
Okay.
than Roscommon, the other
So
side.
do
of
you
our
know the
circuit.
process and how an attorney gets on that list?
I'm sure they do, I would think.
I would imagine they just.
They used to poll all of them, but I don't know what they've done recently.
Maybe they just play some favorites, I don't know. And they, you can get together and say, I don't like that other attorney.
That's a fair question.
You
Has anybody voiced any
I said-
concern or
Will is still heading it up, right?
what's that?
Well,
Yeah.
he's still heading it up.
know, he's still at one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any problem with it. I just thought I'd ask a couple questions.
And this is annually.
Yes.
Any questions, commissioners? So I guess before we approved this last time, didn't this go to our attorney?
This is actually the first time we've had an attorney on retainer that we could send it.
Well, yeah, but we just approved this like 2 months ago.
That's why I went to the attorney. We didn't actually approve it. We talked about it at a COW meeting and we said, we'll send it to the attorney to review, and that's
Okay.
the process that's taken the last, been about 6 weeks, maybe not 2 months.
So this is the first time it made it to our,
Right, so now there's modification to it. I want to make sure you see that before I put it in front of you at resolution.
okay, questions?
I'm okay.
Item 4B, snowmobile purchase options. Mr. Peter? Morning,
Good morning.
how are you?
I am well, thank you.
You got the floor, sir.
All right. As you hopefully all got my letter, I want to start off by saying thank you again for listening to our last adding us, giving us a little extra money to the program. We kind of, as I said, come up with another, maybe a plan B to hopefully try and get another snowmobile this year. We have that extra jet ski. We don't really utilize right at the moment. We'd be willing to sell next summer after we get it, a title for it and basically put that money back into the county budget. Cause we really would like to have the 2 snowmobiles for safety reasons. We put 2 deputies out there instead of 1. Like I said, we have 105 miles of trail that we have to patrol all times of day and night. That we need to,
How many jet skis do we have total?
2.
Don't want 2 guys riding those in the summer? What happens when he stalls on the other side?
Well, that's the great thing is because most time you're on a lake that's not that big.
Oh,
So,
he can walk back around.
well, there's always
Or
other
swim
boats out
across.
there, hopefully that it will
Right.
help you out or whatever.
We
Oh,
all,
you don't think snowmobilers help you out?
Yeah.
Give you a ride?
Sometimes there's not a lot of sleds out there. Riding.
So that was my question, I guess. Why are we willing to give up a jet ski?
well, you have a boat too, right?
We have 2 boats
Okay.
Okay.
2 boats and a jet ski.
and a jet ski that we utilize right now. We have the extra jet ski and
Watercraft we put on these little lakes. Same time.
How much was a jet ski used last year?
the one was used, I use it all the time. The other one just sat because there wasn't, we honestly didn't have the money and or the manpower to run it. So,
Questions, commissioners?
but having another snowmobile would be utilized a lot more.
But then aren't we cutting down the amount of coverage that we're gonna provide? If we're gonna have two sleds running at the same time, we have two paid people running at the same time.
Wouldn't be all the time though. Be only on the busy weekends and the special programs that are out there. The rest of the time we just be the one. But in the event that, you know, if I'm out there and I get broke down, I at least call somebody, say, hey, go get the other sled and come get me.
Maybe.
Commissioner Serbrook.
Oh, I don't have a problem with what they're proposed, I guess. I just still have an issue with the cost of the new sled and how many hours are we? With the budget we've got, there can't be that many hours that are being able to be utilized for snow patrol, is there?
Be about 150, 180 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it have to be a snowmobile? Or could it be a UTV or?
No, it has to be a snowmobile because after December 1st, the trails aren't open to wheeled vehicles, it has to be tracked. So, yes, it has to be a snowmobile. So,
Commissioner Vaughn?
Yeah, but who's gonna write you a ticket?
DNR.
well, it just doesn't look good if I'm out there.
It's-
Oh, now we're after.
Yeah.
Commissioner Vaughn?
Yeah, no, I very much understand safety in numbers, and I used to ride snowmobiles a lot, and I've had to walk out of some trails a few times in the night. I very much understand and.
See, 6 weekends.
So with this that you're proposing is trading in this Wave Runner for, am I looking at this correct? You can get anywhere between 8,000 you're thinking out of it to 12,000? Is that correct?
That's what the retail on is right now. We can't do anything until next summer with it because we have to keep them for a year. Those are the federal government ones. You have to hold for a year and then they'll give us titles and then we're able to do whatever we want with them. So basically next year when the titles come, we can actually sell it.
Next year when?
Next June, be June 7th. I believe it's. When I picked them up,
23 or 24.
23.
Commissioner Scott?
Snowmobile season's 6 to 8 weeks long. And you're talking doubling up only on the weekends, the busy weekends. So. Is the busy weekends 4 out of 6, 4 out of 8?
You know, who knows, yeah.
Well, yeah, who knows? I mean. Where am I spending my money? How do I prioritize my money? What bang for the buck am I getting?
Well, I'd rather see a machine used than sitting in the parking lot not used.
Well, I go along with that, but
That's where I'm at. I mean, if we got 2 boats and a jet ski, or 2 boats and 2 jet skis right now, we only have 1 snowmobile. Even if we use the snowmobile as a backup, if the other one breaks down, that's still an option than having 4 watercraft vehicles that we're probably only utilizing maybe 2 at a time.
Right.
well,
Why have
then sell
that,
them-
have that extra
then-
inventory?
then sell the extra inventory. I get that part. Yeah, I say that.
But I think it would be
But-
smart just to have a backup snowmobile, even if
You're
you're
gonna-
not using it.
You're buying a used snowmobile. Right?
No, the price that we had was 19,000 for a new
I
one.
know, but
Well,
we're not seeing that in this letter.
That's up to you.
We're not seeing that in this letter, though. We're saying, we're looking at, you borrow, we lend, and we're not doing this lending thing. We're gonna give you $9,000.
Yeah.
$9,000 doesn't buy a $19,000 snowmobile.
No,
They buy
So
the used
we're
one.
buying a used one.
Or if you want to
And
give me
we're worried
19,000, I'll
about,
buy a new one.
we're worried about the used one we have right now breaking down, and we're buying another used one. Do we worry about that one breaking down? Now I got two officers out in the woods and they're both broke down.
So what are you proposing, Commissioner Scott? What are your thoughts?
Okay, we've been doing good with one, and if you gotta, if there's some snowmobilers out there, I bet you if you went up there to St. Helens Snowpacker and asked for some volunteers, so you could have a phone number, you could call somebody in the case that you were broke down. You know, and then you're gonna tell me, oh, they don't have cell coverage, and you won't be able to call in.
You know as well as I do, if there's places up there that doesn't have cell coverage.
What are you proposing? I guess I didn't quite understand your.
I'm not sure. Do we buy a satellite phone to make sure that they go to 100 places, 100% of
They don't
places
need to sell it.
all?
They'll have a GPS on it.
Yes.
I'm not big on buying used.
Be more than happy to buy a new one.
Oh, I'm not happy all the time. Okay, you're not gonna make me happy. You're gonna make me happier, but
So if we buy a new one and we sell the other one or trade it in for 9,000, then we're only actually spending $10,000.
Well, I mean, if you want to make, if we're gonna trade in the other ones, when we have one snowmobile, that one's worth 4,000. The one we have right now is worth
I'm talking
4,000.
about jet ski.
The jet ski, like I said, we'd have to sell that outright next year.
Okay.
Next summer, we have to sell that outright.
Or wait a year and trade it in,
Huh?
or wait a year and see if you can trade it,
Right.
see what they give you for trade.
For a sled,
For
or,
a new sled.
that's an
We'd have
idea.
one this year, but next year,
To also see what the grant's gonna be next year, because they already cut it down $1,000.
there you go.
But the $1,700 for the fix the trailer is not gonna have to happen now because they don't make those covers, so. The trailer we have is gonna get some Gorilla tape put on the sides and
Pop rivets and
then next year I'm gonna try and find some grant money to get another new trailer. So there's that money that won't be utilized this year that you guys authorized. But
Tim, where would this funding come from?
I would suggest that we take it out of contingency. When the ARPA is sitting there, but I just. It could be utilized. I would rather go to contingency on something like this.
Commissioner Serbrook, we'll come back.
so I just soon see it, wait till next year.
I would as well. I agree with that option as far as trading it in, see where we're at next summer. See what they can find, see what the grant money is. I don't have a problem revisiting this. I 100% respect your what you're looking for here. I just think we just need to delay it just a touch. With that grant being cut down by $1,000, maybe there's not gonna be any funding next year, and then we're gonna have this sled sitting there. Who knows if this, hopefully this 2012 jet ski will be worth that next summer.
Mhm.
Who knows what next summer is gonna bring?
you never know. That's right.
That's where I'm at.
That's today's current price on it.
Correct, and that's fair.
So,
Commissioner Scott,
I don't see this being a high priority for two sleds out there. I think you gotta be cut back on the coverage because you're gonna be paying two people instead of one. So if winter does last longer this year, we're not gonna be able to cover it all. I mean. What? We gained some exposure out there on the trail. No, not this year.
okay, so that's 3. You guys okay with that? Revisiting it, or
See me after the meeting.
You wanna buy a jet ski?
Hmm?
You'll in the jet ski?
thank you.
It's got a snowmobile.
Item 4C, car wash account.
This was Commissioner Scott's issue from regular meeting.
I didn't see any more, was there any information on our iPad? I didn't see anything on it.
Well, the
Commissioner-
sheriff's here this meeting and he wasn't here last meeting. I don't know.
He had some questions. Sheriff, do you want to come on up? Commissioner Scott had some questions last meeting and nobody was here.
Just to
Morning.
bring you up to speed.
I like your tie.
Thanks.
Oh, sorry.
Can I help you?
Just to bring you up to speed, I was driving past the West End Car Wash last week, right before the meeting, and I saw one of our deputies' cars, one of our sheriff cars going through the car wash. I like that.
Yeah.
You know, so I saw Bill Drum that owns the car wash, and I asked him about how do we pay, and he said, oh, you guys got an account. But it's not much of an account because it takes almost all year before I bill you, because I don't usually bill until there's 25 washes. And he said, you get about 10 washes a year. So I'm kind of figuring you got one guy that likes to get the car washed, which doesn't bother me a bit. I'd like to send more cars through there. And
It would be nice.
we're back, huh?
Let you finish. He's got it. I can tell you all about that here in a second.
Come on
You
up.
can come
sit
on up.
next to-
I'll call him on up. Come on up, Mr. Mayor. Come on up.
This guy that's coming up behind me
Yeah.
likes clean cars. And
Okay.
he digs in his own pocket most of the time and runs them through there. And I told him not to do
There's an
that.
account there.
I didn't know there. was
They
an
didn't
account.
tell you
I
that?
had no idea. there
Nope,
was an
I've been
account.
running cars through there.
That was way back before I took over there. I didn't
Okay,
know
so
there-
what have you been doing, sir?
Well, you've been.
I run the cars through there
Come on,
and
let him talk.
because the midnight guys, the car wash isn't open when they're working. So
Yeah.
I take their cars through for them. I pay for it out of my own pocket because I didn't know we had an account.
Needs to be reversed to that.
Yeah, so that's not okay. But do you,
I wouldn't
we
borrow
talked,
for a jet ski. I'd borrow to pay car wash.
Well,
so we talked last time, just to continue the conversation. We talked last time as far as we were under the understanding there is a power washer over there at the somewheres, either, I don't know if it's a corrections, I don't know if it's at the jail. There is no, you guys have no power washer?
Washer.
no power washer, no.
What do you have to wash cars?
Guard hose.
Guard hose.
Brush.
Okay,
And a lot of our deps will wash their own cars.
over there?
On company time, of course.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was all part of the conversation and the
But
questions
Part of
we
the
had.
conversation is, I would just assume have them spend their time patrolling rather than washing cars. Right.
Yeah.
You know, now you got a part-time guy. If you put him in
He
a
takes care of our
rotation,
cars.
And I
That's
also
part of
went
his
down there and I
job
talked
duties.
to,
well, then that's.
I didn't talk to Bill, I talked to his wife because Bill was not there, but. She gave me a quote on how much for cars to start going through there.
Which, do you have that?
The quote?
Yeah.
It's probably gonna be $7 a car versus 10, because we have the big SUVs.
So you just said that's part of, and maybe I misunderstood you. You just said that's part of his job duties. What does that mean?
He takes care of the cars.
Take care of cars.
He maintains the cars, makes sure that they're outfitted, got the equipment in it. He does the inventory for them cars. He assists Lieutenant Castleman.
Yep.
Castleman, that's his primary job.
Yep.
But he's got an assistant that makes sure that's done because them cars have to be equipped for anything that should come our way. We have to have the equipment to take care of the problem.
Correct. And we also like them to look good. I think that's all part of pride.
I'm a stickler on that. Them cars have to look good
Joys of black vehicles.
So
and they're hard to keep clean.
are we talking about the same car wash down here on the west end? Tom?
Yep.
Okay, because, okay, all right. I just want to make sure because I talked to Bill and,
And it was me that you seen pulling out the other day, so,
okay, well, going in. Yeah.
so.
All right.
Is it possible, this also came up in conversation, is it possible to have inmates wash cars since we have them working in the kitchen and doing other things? Why do we not have them doing that?
We can. We can.
But
Yeah,
it's kind of hard with their schedule over there at the jail.
Okay.
Because they constantly got transports coming in and out of their garage, stuff like that.
and they can't drive the vehicles, so.
They can't.
They have to be involved too, to work with us to make sure that the inmate or the trustee is available. So it puts a little strain on them, which isn't hugely, but it's another mechanism that we have to do. So a lot of guys he'll go down and wash them. And I told him a couple months ago, don't use your own money for that. I didn't know he was doing that.
But I mean, I guess I would like to see the cost comparison as far as us purchasing a power washer and having inmates doing this versus a contract with we should check at both car washes. There's two in town. I don't know who owns what, or if they own, I don't know, maybe one person owns both. I have no idea.
Just a power wash right now is about $6,000.
Right, but a contract for an annual contract at a car wash for all of our county vehicles. I would like to see what that cost is. If there's a limit, how many times they can go through. I mean, we need all that information before we say go spend $7 a week on however many cars you guys have and everybody else has around here.
And I thought we were installing, as part of the upgrades to transit, I thought we were putting in a bay for that.
We have an RFP that is under final review at the state to fill that, so we're probably a year out at that, or yeah, best
So nothing,
estimate. Nothing is in it.
You have to look at the inmates as far as that goes, as far as Lieutenant Ozier's. You have to have officers sit out there and watch these guys wash cars. That's still costing money.
Right, but if that's part of his job duty, I mean, is that something that are you able to observe inmates? I mean, I don't know what your title is. I don't have any idea, and I apologize. I really don't.
It's fine, but
Well, there's cameras in there, so.
there's cameras and
They used to do it, correct?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't,
With the COVID, we used to have inmates come over to the office, but with the COVID, we put the stop to that, but we could probably do that again, but somebody has to watch them over there. you know?
agreed.
So, I mean, it's something we can work on.
I think we need to explore both options for cost. And they should have input if you guys are able to do this, but $7 a car is a lot of money. I run mine through once or twice.
That'll add up in a hurry.
Yes,
But it gets the salt off the vehicles, so that's.
correct. And I'm all about
that's-
keeping things nice. I agree. I just think we need cost both ways. So who's gonna reach out and check with car wash or owners? Is that something you want to take on? You know the one, correct?
I don't, we're not talking about a one big hit. Now, if corrections can provide somebody, that's fine, but the week that they can't provide somebody for whatever reason, then I want them to have the option to take the car over there. You know? I want to be able to provide the sheriff's office the opportunity to use car wash at county expense.
I want the cost of that before we agree to that.
Well, I'm saying that we're already hearing that corrections can do it, but not all the time.
And
Okay.
revisit that.
Where are they gonna do it at?
Well, you got a garage, right? And
They
then
do
you
it
got,
now.
I don't
Wash your
know,
cars.
you tell me.
I thought we weren't doing it at the correctional facility though.
We have done it there.
We can do it there?
We have done it. Yeah, I actually got a hose over there and.
Do you have any input, Mr. Ozier? You're looking like you're wanting to talk.
Yeah, we can do it from time to time. It isn't always practical. A lot of times we have vehicles going in and out. So if the, let's say the state police come in with an inmate, we have to clear the trustees, get them out of the area, process that inmate, then go back out. We don't always have trustees that we can trust. Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, obviously, it's just hard. But with COVID, it really put a damper on anybody being mixed. That number really easy.
Right, but those restrictions have lightened.
Yeah, those are really eased. And to me, I would explore possibly a power washer and then a process to do it. We have other garages. So we have that big one there, but then we have one over at the sheriff's office or.
That's where I thought they did. It was at the sheriff's office. I
Yeah, we've
thought.
done it.
we do it over there.
Problem with
But you
that
don't have a
one
power
is,
washer though.
unless there's an officer standing right in there with them, there's no access to watch them.
Do you have a power washer at the correctional facility?
There's an old electric one, but it's no good. It's been there I can get one.
Get rid of it.
So, yeah, that's
No,
probably not
that's
the
what
best
they-
option then. I would think you could
Put
probably.
it on the county
You know what,
auction.
car wash to do our vehicles until transit gets up and going. Yeah.
And that's
And
nice
most
about
of the time
Weston,
it's
they
gonna
do,
be-
it does do, they do, because
Yeah.
guys are there, they do this brush. The cars look good when they come out. The other end, it does okay if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. But it doesn't, but you go on a black vehicle, it's kind of hard to keep clean and that leaves a film on it.
Wait till you get in there, it does soap and then quits.
Yeah, or that.
Cost of both.
And I
So-
think most of your work is
That's
gonna be in the winter time anyway. You're not gonna do a whole lot of,
No, in the summertime, it's not that bad. The guys, they can leave the doors open, they wash, real quick, or it rains or whatever.
My car's in there right now, waiting for a wash, so.
I disagree. I like those cars looking nice.
Where's your car?
Mine's in the garage waiting to be washed. I'm gonna wash it when I get out of here for the parade tonight, in Rose City.
Oh, there's break.
Yes.
How come? It's too late.
Christmas break.
Christmas.
Oh, it's already? I
night.
was not aware of that.
December 1st, come on.
Exactly.
While we're talking about cars, Craig, I want to thank you personally for spearheading us getting that pickup truck. It is down getting outfitted right now, but thank you.
More cost.
And, yep, exactly. And that's for our people,
We had some questions on that. That's not on here. We didn't agree to pay that.
What's on there? It's the radar purchase.
Oh, that is it. Okay, it was,
Yeah.
I didn't understand.
Coming up.
Okay, so I guess, what do you guys want to do? I don't think we can make a decision on this car wash until we have more information as far as cost.
No, I think we can make a decision on it.
And what? Okay, what would you like to make a decision on?
I think that we should. I like Brad's idea that we go ahead and use the car wash until we get another solution through transit, maybe.
Transit or,
Without knowing a cost, without reaching out to them and asking?
Well, I know it's,
that's what I'm saying. I mean, they could go and see it, what they'll give them per vehicle.
So we're not making a decision right now. We're asking for more information.
all right, I think the basic wash over there on the sign is $8, right?
Right, and that's why they said 7 because we have but I mean, they do a good job. And $7 is pretty cheap.
It's hand washed.
It's basically hand washed.
They look good.
Basically, that running through the machine.
That's a
doesn't do
reflection-
much.
that
They
is-
hand wash.
That's a reflection on the people's office. And when I say people's office, the sheriff's office. And it's a reflection on you folks. And them cars look good. We
Oh,
all look good.
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, it's also a reflection of you're taking care of the. taxpayer.
Exactly. Taking care of the people's cars.
Yeah.
Commissioner Serbrook,
For as much as it costs.
Opinion?
Absolutely.
I think that we should take and see what kind of cost, get it in writing from them as to how much it's gonna cost per vehicle. And then I like the idea that Brad brought up about once transit gets their power washer up, then utilizing that option as well.
looking further into it.
Right.
I agree with this. I just want to know the cost before we give the 100% okay.
I want to see a dollar figure as to what it's gonna cost per vehicle.
We should have it next week. Thank you.
Absolutely. I go down and get you something.
We'll have it for your meeting next week.
I say both places. I think that's fair. I think that's what we're trying to do with our.
They don't hand
balance.
wash the other one.
Huh?
They don't hand wash the other one. It's just, it's.
There's a brush there. I do mine. I get bugs off when it's really bad.
Let us know when you're there. We'll bring our.
Absolutely. Everyone happy.
It's not hard to step out of your car. It takes 30 seconds, but I think that's being fair in town.
Well, I think
That's my opinion.
maybe we're talking about two different things here, because where I saw Chris going through it's the auto wash. Okay, it's not the quarter machine. It's
No,
the
I know.
auto Wash, okay, and that down here at the west end, there's two guys
I know,
that brush the car.
correct? I went through there and
Okay,
I've had to turn around and go back through there because of a few times because the job wasn't very, I'm just saying I'm sorry, I'll wait till you're done.
well, that's fine, that's fine. I mean, it's just you said that when you went to the other place, there's a brush there and I can jump.
There is,
out.
there's a brush. There's a brush. It literally takes 30 seconds. It's the same thing that they do at that end. I'm just looking for a cost comparison.
Okay, all right. well,
They run a brush over your car before you go in the west side of town. And there's a brush sitting there on the east side of town that literally probably takes about 30 to 60 seconds. Just for a cost comparison.
Chris will have that next week.
That's it.
Next week.
For both.
If they're equal, I agree, go to the one where there's two people, but
So does this mean you guys are gonna start to give us more money for car washes then? For the
Doesn't mean
sheriff's budget, Or is
anything.
this gonna come out of the sheriff's budget right now?
I'm looking for a cost.
That would be out of the budget right now.
Okay.
You shouldn't be spending your own money. Absolutely not. I'm sorry. Did I
We
miss-
owe you some money?
No, it
Huh?
shouldn't be.
We owe you some money?
Yeah.
You don't owe me nothing. No. I take pride in. the
Well, that's great.
And I wanna make sure everybody else.
I'm not asking
No.
you to donate though.
Well,
If you spent money, I think you should be reimbursed for that.
well, then give me a new snowmobile. We'll control it.
All right.
It's only fair.
It's only fair.
Only fair.
Somebody else, nice.
Okay, well, let me tell you about the fair. The fair comes in August and lasts for a week, right? Okay.
Hold on, did you have an opinion? You want more?
There's already an account there to get it done. He said
There is.
$7.
Nothing about it. We don't know how many washes. We know nothing about it.
Well, here's my thing though, if it's gonna come out of the sheriff's budget anyway,
So how do you budget that when you don't know anything about it?
because we haven't even started it yet. That's why we haven't even got to that point
Well,
yet.
he'd be the guy watching them.
We'll have more-
We'll have more information for next week.
Next week, we'll have more answers.
Okay,
If you want to add more money to the budget for these cars.
we don't know how much money.
We just may do that.
Well, okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
Okay,
You want to hear about the snowmobile?
Oh, that's.
more information to come next week.
Next
You
week.
you do your,
I would say next week, it's the regular meeting, so you want this.
I think 2 weeks, but they're saying next week.
I don't care, I just want to.
No, I don't have a problem. Let's hear it next week. I may make the motion to go ahead and do it.
Okay, let's see where we're at next week.
Then if I don't get the seconds or the votes, well, that's the way it goes.
Item D, radar purchase. You guys you want to stay up here?
Don't go away. Come in. One of you. Two of you.
All right. Radar purchase was part of the vehicle grants for the USDA that you guys approved. So that's part of the equipment that it wasn't new for existing vehicles. It was new equipment for the new vehicles. That was already budgeted in for the USDA grants.
Questions? I guess we weren't aware of that. Was that, we had questions?
In the resolution, we always write for these vehicle purchases that there will be, I don't know what we call it, if it's auxiliary or whatever, but we have light bars on there with the radar, we have radios, and a couple other things. Yeah,
Yeah,
all that actually in the resolution. So it's assumed when you're buying a vehicle, we're gonna need all these things. But it also says in the resolution, we recognize this as the vehicle, or the vehicle purchase price. Which is usually what's in be it resolved, we're buying a vehicle. But all that being said, I mean, it's there. We recognize these things are needed. And I'm assuming they're always standards so that when I get into one vehicle, the radar is the same as it is in the other,
Absolutely,
so I know how
yes.
to operate it.
Yep.
Which is why we do that, standardize the equipment across the board. So while it isn't specifically called out in the cost, it's recognized it has to happen. And in this case, the fact that we had to buy more than one. So it tipped the balance over the what we would typically do with an RFP. And again, in this case, I'm assuming we're one sole source because we have to have the standardized equipment.
correct.
So it was at the disadvantage at the regular meetings. I didn't know for sure. I saw this and I assumed, but I could not say for certain.
Right.
That this is what was going on. And I think in conversations we've had since, that's exactly what it was.
Uh-huh.
But the fact that we had to buy more than one is why it tipped the dollar amount to where it was.
Questions? Commissioner Scott?
Well, the USDA grants aren't 100%, so there is county money that has to be spent. on that.
How much? How much of this was county money for this radar purchase?
Probably
45% of that. The total cost is what the county paid. The 55% was from USDA costs.
So for all of them, we're up
For
to
everything.
2,000.
I think part of your question on that was as well, is it the new truck that wasn't supposed to be?
Well, that's what I was surprised that would get put in a radar unit. Truck. We thought we got past this interceptor truck idea. And we were going with an auxiliary vehicle thing.
Right, it's,
But since we're driving down the road, we might snag somebody.
we might, and
And of course, that'll help.
if we're.
That ticket will help pay for the truck too.
And if it's being utilized for ORV when they're sitting out there, you know, on the trails alongside the trail, it can be utilized for that too.
Yeah.
So,
I think you had a question there, correct?
That's-
Commissioner Serbrook?
I'm fine with that. They've purchased radars. I mean, it's, you need them, so.
You guys good?
We can
Okay.
pay it.
Yep. We have to have a resolution to pay that?
Just put it as part of the claims next time. Just
Well,
It needs to be, it's probably paid.
the check's in my safe.
Just add it to claims for next week. Then we've got it covered.
So don't pay it till next week.
Or can't vote on it today.
How much was it
It's
again?
5,130.
Yeah, oh, so it's gonna have a resolution.
Oh, yeah, that big company. Get by with all $5,000. That's-
Okay,
So add it to claims next week.
I don't think.
Okay,
I don't
thank
think Custom rate is gonna go.
Here is
below
my question,
$5,000.
We have these vehicles put, you know, they're at the outfitter. The extra outfitter, you know, for the light bars and all that stuff is 12 grand each vehicle. Do we need to do anything else special for that right now? You guys get the bill for those.
Well, that's the
Well,
point.
you've seen some of the bills for that already.
Okay,
And the resolution recognizes these
Right, okay.
purchases, but when this came to claims and the question was raised, there was no definitive answer. And
Okay.
so the board, out of an abundance of caution, said, let's pull this until we know for sure what's happened.
It was, you know, I don't remember seeing customs with a K. Or, now, I might have, but I looked at the claims and I don't remember seeing it.
every car has ones over there, so that's why you should have.
Okay, well, in the 6 years being here, I just don't recognize.
That's how old they are. I've seen Mark probably bought lots of them.
You might have, but I just,
Soon as Tim mentioned the word custom, I knew exactly what it was, didn't I tell him?
thank you. Item E, credit card limit, one administrator.
Yeah, well, 2 of the last 3 months, I've run up against the limit on the card for for my office. In both cases has been for conferences that we've registered people for. We did the MERS conference in September, and we did this last time signing up commissioners for the new training that's coming up. I think they're next week. What I'm going to ask you to consider is, so we will bump that to 2,500 from the 1,000. It's not something that I'm going to hit every month by any means, but particularly when these conferences roll around, it would be good to have that additional space to get people registered, get the hotels in line, and do what we need to do. The alternative, this last time, I believe it was out of the goodness of the treasurer that we were able to use her card to get everybody registered and set and ready to go. This would actually be, from an administrative standpoint, much easier to track. We know it's all on the one card, the one department. So that's what I would request.
Amen.
Questions, comments?
Do it.
Commissioner
I
Scott?
don't have a problem with the administrative level.
Okay,
I
so
just don't wanna have a parade of departments coming in the next 3 months, all have to raise up. And through this one board.
front of the court, come on up. You don't want us?
Need a snowmobile.
You don't need, but you want.
No, but I'm going to start.
Just got a new van, come on. We got the van.
You're the grand marshal.
Thanks for making me the grand marshal of the parade. You're gonna put me first. Strategy, right? Karen Biglowski brought to my attention that the FOC credit card is currently at $15,000, which is what it was bumped to when we were purchasing the items for the youth services center across the street. And then we needed to lower that. And she was preparing to lower that back down to the standard 1,000 that we have on all of the rest of the cards. Much like Tim, I have people traveling for friend of the court. I can tell you that every October when we go to Boyne, I typically send 2 to 3 people. That registration and hotel process is over $1,000 by the time it's all done. The rooms tend to be around 900. And I use that card to pay my monthly bills for, we call and phone in and pay Xerox over the phone. We use it to pay our LexisNexis bill, some standard bills that we have. And I don't ever want to end up in a situation where I'm trying to book a room and I'm declined. So I was also going to come to ask to have my limit set at 25,000, bringing it down from the
2,500.
20. Yeah, no, 25,000. I need a snowmobile. No, yeah, 2,500. In order to facilitate that travel for my staff.
Commissioner Serbrook.
I don't have an issue with the 2,500.
Commissioner Scott.
Are Xerox bills gonna be all consolidated here soon?
They're consolidated in the sense for at least the general fund that we put them all into a single line item under general account. In case a friend of the court, in particular childcare fund, it's important that we, and we don't have to do this, but that we keep them separate because Michael has to put an awful lot of documentation into the state and show what exactly those costs were in order for us to get reimbursed from the state. So our designated funds, like friend of the court, right now, they're still in those budgets specifically. I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head that's in the same position you are, where you have to make the justifications with your reports to the state. So in this case, I think it's important that it be kept separate so that we can grab that number when we need it and fill in the blank.
Does it have to be paid with a credit card?
I don't believe
And
anything
it goes
has
through
to
the
be-
claims like everybody else's still?
Come to claims, so you would still see that when you come through with claims, but it will be a little bit harder to find if it's on a credit card. It might just look like a credit card payment and you don't know what the detail is unless you punch the right key in BSNA and it'll tell you.
Having all the.
Well, if we
invoices
could-
and purchases are included.
Yeah, right, yeah, so you'll actually see it still come through claims regardless if it was paid with a credit card. What I'm saying is sometimes I was just going through an exercise where I saw credit card listed as the item, in which I can click. I have the program, clearly I can click to see what the invoices were that were paid. I can see the itemized. It's just one more step.
Commissioner Bud?
Well, it's just easier for him to keep track. Like you say, he has to document all this stuff.
Yeah, there's, I mean, checks and balances with the credit card process. That goes through, not only does it come in front of you in claims, but it also gets double checked by Karen every month. I'm in control of the card. It's in my possession at all times, so it's not, I'm not sending it with people to travel, you know, we do credit card authorization forms for hotels so that we can use the card, but.
Commissioner Becker?
I'm fine with that. I mean, anything over 2,500 or 3,000 has to be approved by the committee anyway.
Yeah, a single purchase, but
Yeah.
in this case, it's usually several that add up to that amount.
Yeah, and I would rather, have them make one purchase for whatever event it is up until that amount. But, because I mean, I've seen some things come through that look like they're starting to be structured to break them down so that they're not meeting that threshold, and I would rather not see that. I'd rather them just be able to make the entire purchase so we can track that event.
I don't have a problem with it.
So you're lowering it.
Technically, we're lowering it from 15,000 to 2,500.
Because when you came initially for that 15,000, we never dropped that back down. to-
We never dropped it back down. Karen caught it the last time she was processing.
Yeah, I
it.
see that in here. Okay.
So, yeah.
So we'll have that in for resolution. Are you guys good with that? Commissioners?
Well, we should get some travel credits for all these purchases and then we could get breaks on motel rooms. Is there any way we can get any incentives off these credit cards?
Short answer is yes. So if we were to stay at the Choice Hotels, for instance, they have a rewards program. Why do I know that? Well, nobody needs to know that. Let's demonstrate with the Holiday Inn Expresses and their change. You can get points added up. I don't know if these cards, sometimes there's incentive with the cards themselves, but I don't know if we qualify as a business or not.
I can check into it.
Yeah, so the short answer is yes, but would be, obviously strictly monitored. So if friend of the court had, 1 billion points and you got a free room and whatever, make sure that that's where that goes, that we don't have somebody using it personally, just like anything else. That's of accountants, yeah.
We don't normally get to pick where we stay, though.
Yeah, that would be the problem
Yeah.
with trying to do a points through a hotel
Yeah.
system, but certainly if trying to find a card that has double point or earn dollar for dollar if you for travel or gas or, anything like that, that would be
Why don't you get to pick?
relevant.
Well, like today I leave to go to my conference and it's
It's somewhere.
at the Doherty Hotel in Clare.
Oh, I see what you're saying, where the conference is.
Right.
But you wouldn't have to stay where the conference is.
You don't have to, but
It
then,
makes it more convenient.
well, so my association pays for my room when I stay there. I guess that would be.
Usually there's a block of rooms for a
We-
conference.
yeah.
Yeah,
Offered at a discounted rate
It
already,
is.
and they might not qualify for the points, but who knows?
still something for us to monitor.
Yeah.
So we'll have put that on for resolution. Okay, thank you, Karen.
You had
enough
on your credit card?
Item F, which is, that's a duplicate, right?
For my
That means you're-
class,
That's
it's good.
Huh? Item G, the MERS and 457 loan addendum.
So for the defined contribution of 457 plans, MERS does offer an addendum where an employee could borrow against their defined contribution of 457 accrued amounts that they've earned. Our plans right now don't allow for that. That's just how they were set up. And I don't even know what year that was when they were set up. But a request had come in from an employee that we look into it, and MERS's response, you see there, very doable. Process would be something similar to what we just did with the 457 contributions. I would put a resolution in front of the board. You would approve it, and they'll take it from there to amend our plans. Now, how often would this happen? Well, I don't know. I do know that a lot of these plans, you can draw money out of them if you're doing like a home purchase, and there are certain advantages to doing that under the various tax codes. But bottom line is about the defined contribution in the 457, and particularly the DC, once the employee is vested, that money is all theirs anyway. So it's not costing any plan, anything. It's strictly an agreement really between the employee and him or herself that they pay this back over a period of time to make sure that they have money in their account for retirement. Not always a wise thing to do, but there are situations where it may be helpful to have access to that money. And so that would be the advantage to doing it. Disadvantage, again, there is nothing in terms of the county that would cost the county anything. All the administrative component is handled at MERS. So there really is no other impact on the county at all.
So basically, all this does is give them access to their money.
Right.
Well, yeah, why would we not do that?
Yeah.
That's the,
Penalty free too. They can
right,
take
oh,
this.
yeah.
If this was raw retirement money and you were under 58 years old, you'd have to pay a tax penalty on it. You can borrow your own money. That's all you're doing is borrowing your own money.
Paying interest back to yourself.
And you're paying the interest back to yourself.
Oh,
And as
Joe Reddy a couple of times.
pardon me?
I've done it through Merrill Lynch
Have
a
you?
couple of times, and it is a very, good one.
People that help their kids through college. do.
at Waste Management.
But there are restrictions on it though.
Right, at Waste Management, the employees were able to do this, and what I saw was they'd lose out on interest. Because they borrowed their own money, they're losing the interest on it. That's why you got it there in the first place, is to collect interest.
I don't see a problem with it. No disadvantage to the county, it's advantage to them.
Is this something we need to run past the unions?
You're not taking anything from them, so
Well, I know, but we're giving them something.
we'll certainly make the employees aware, when it becomes available.
Just an added benefit for them if they so choose to, if they're in a financial situation where they think they need to borrow the money.
If they want to object, they do it through the grievance process, we'll grant the grievance. And then they
Yeah.
do it.
I mean,
Well, at the amount of people that really participate in the retirement programs, it's minimal amount of people that are gonna have some money in there, except the defined people. But if they borrow it and they're close to retirement time, what they're doing is taking away from your own pension.
Item H, jail medical cost summary. Tim, you got the floor.
Okay, you've got the breakdown both in the graph and the monthly data below it. I've included, if you're interested in that deep of a dive, a list of all the invoices and what line item they were charged to, if you want to do that deep of a dive. But this picture with the graph and then the data below, I think really tells us what we wanted to know in terms of, are we saving money? Well, it's a bit of a loaded question. Are we saving money? Loaded only in that I would remind you that when we approved the resolution to go with the PMD, we added the 20 hours of the nursing time. And so it wouldn't be fair for us to compare year 21 to the new cost with the added 20 hours. So if we take that 20 hours out, we've actually decreased the expenses that Ogemaw County has. I'll talk about the other component in a minute with the out-of-county inmates. But for the Ogemaw County cost actually would be a decrease if we subtract that. But even if we add that back in, let's keep it in there. There was an increase of just under $9,800, 5.4%, but that still beat the rate of inflation. So if we look at the value of that dollar, we still came out pretty decent shape in all of that. Looking back at the graph, though, I want to just point out that the two categories, the darker colored is the overall cost. You see 21 and 22. The lighter color is the Ogemaw County cost. And I want to point out, particularly when you get to September, what that additional cost is with the out-of-county inmates, but also remind you that those costs are reimbursed to us by whatever county those inmates belong to. We have several now, say Oscoda and Gladwin and Oscoda, there was several counties that are sending their inmates up here. But also point out that November 2022 was a very low number. And talking with Lieutenant Ogier, our guess is you saw the jump there in December that came right after. One of the invoices just didn't get paid in November. It was paid at the right time for probably TMD, because you notice we don't even have that cost in there. So just a timing issue with the bill. So it looks like there was a big spike in December. There really wasn't. Some of that was the November cost. You know, the other spikes that I would leave to Lieutenant Ogier to talk about. There may have been COVID cases. We may have had inmates that had special needs that we had to attend to. In those cases, you see their spikes. They're definitely not the norm of the costs themselves. But that's the overall summary. 2 full fiscal years. The old contract, the old firm versus the new.
Mr. Ogier, come on up. And what is your input on this?
Yeah, I'll do it off this chart as well. Makes it easier for you to follow along with that. You get into October, starting from left to right, you'll see October we're lower than the year before. November, we're a lot lower. And the reason that was is one of our vendors didn't put in a bill, so they weren't paid. So they got paid twice in December. They got paid their November wages as well as their December wages. That's why you see the huge spike in December. Actually, a little under 14,000 of that should have come out of November, which would have brought the November chart pretty much even. We do have increases in January slightly. We're lower in February. We're lower, actually, our cost in March. You see the dark lines, the out of county was a little bit more, but that's billed back to them. April, we're a little bit higher. May, we're lower. June, we're just a little bit higher. Same thing in July, lower in August. And then the September one kind of throws you because it's down. The year prior is lower, quite a bit lower than the other one. But when I'm looking at the summary of the billing, it doesn't show one of our vendors in there as well, which is just under $14,000. So that September one from last year, from the year prior, should be about twice that much, which would show our September for this year pretty close to even where it should be. But we are, like Tim said, we're at 5.56% increase, which the inflation rate, the index, consumer index rate is 7.9. So we're even under that.
Plus you got 20 extra hours.
20 extra hours of service, correct? Which
So it's
for
still a
liability
deal.
reasons, it picks off things. And then you have some months, you'll see some of these are a little bit higher. We don't choose our clients. So we might get a
No.
client in there and they got medication that we have to pay for, which might make one month a little higher than the next, back and forth. But there's nothing actually out of the ordinary. All the major bursts you see there in the dark green are out of county costs, which we bill right back to them. And that's generally, most of that's probably going to be pharmaceutical or medical costs. And it's not our cost, it's their cost. So I don't know if you have a specific question on this chart or something that I can.
Well, I think, and I'm gonna, if I don't mind, I'm gonna speak. I mean, I initially, prior to this past year, you guys, this contract, it was a company, it was an organization that was being utilized, correct?
Mhm.
And now it's private. I guess I don't know if that's a correct terminology, but it's
That was a healthcare company as well. I mean,
Right now?
They were, yeah, they created a corporation.
Yeah, it's a corporation.
okay, so there's,
I mean, you file the paperwork and you're a corporation, right?
Okay.
Size.
I recall all of this. So when it was sold to us, there was supposed to be a pretty significant cost savings. My question to you is are you happy with the current services? Is there been any problems, any concerns, coverage?
I'm extremely happy with the services. Any issues, we deal with them immediately. Any issues I have with an inmate that's got a medical issue, I can deal with the top person from that company immediately to say, hey, this is what this inmate's saying, what's going on. Get to the nitty gritty of it, I guess, is the only way to put it. We have coverage 7 days a week, which is huge. You get
In the building 7 days a week?
in the building, 7 days a week. They come in, they work every day. Once in a while, that doesn't happen, but if it does, they make up the hours. And that would be like the nurse couldn't get in that day for whatever, sick or whatever. That's rare.
How often is a provider coming in?
The doctor,
Mhm.
the doctor's basically phone call, telephone and fax.
So he's not,
He comes in when he's,
they're not present.
no, he comes in when he's requested, but that was the same with the other company as well. They come when they were. He used to make rounds, but if they weren't needed, he didn't stop.
Oh, I was under the understanding they were stopping once a week or once every other week.
He could stop once every other week, but he didn't always stop.
I worked there 4 years and seen him twice.
The only thing he did a lot of times when he stopped at the other company would be sign off on the evaluations. Now they fax them and he signs off.
Questions?
And the $9,000 is not a snowmobile, but we could use one.
Commissioner Watt?
Who's one at the jail?
Commissioner Serbrook?
What, are you gonna ride around the parking lot?
That'd be fun. We gotta-
Oh, yeah.
Commissioner Serbrook?
Then we wouldn't have to pay for snow plowing. Are you done?
Thank you. If I said that.
I would just
roll
my eyes.
So, right,
You're happy with the service you got. You're getting 20 extra hours than what we had under the previous contract.
Correct.
The costs are basically, I mean, if you want to get down the nitty gritty of it, $10,000 difference. We're getting a deal.
The consumer, the
I think there's
consumer
a
index.
deal here, but
No, for 20 extra hours
The
that we
consumer,
didn't have under the old contract, that's huge.
consumer index would take it to 7.9, we're at 5.56.
Exactly, and you got the 20 hours
20
extra,
hours of service that.
which we didn't have before.
And-
So
And that's hidden what it saves you. You get people with health issues that come in and they got heart issues or serious issues. That nurse is dealing with them within hours.
on site as opposed to sitting down at the hospital.
Correct, within hours.
I also think that this is important to continue to monitor this because this wasn't done previously to keep everybody honest, to keep monitoring things, to keep our options in open, so we know where everybody stands.
And it's not hard to do. I mean, this
Correct.
with the BSNA program, this was great. I can't wait to do a few more.
Commissioner Scott?
How many people work for this company?
They have 4 total. One rarely works. She's a cover nurse. You have 2 that do most of the hours. Then you have another one that works a couple days a week.
This is the same,
And the doctor.
this is the same gal that,
Tina DeMudd is the owner.
yeah,
nurse,
her
the same
husband,
nurse.
her husband's the attorney.
Yes.
Correct. Okay, all right.
They're interested in continuing?
Yes, they're under contract for 2 more years, I believe.
Yes, 3-year agreement.
3-year agreement.
This is all the costs. This isn't just this service. This is any cost down to the hospital or anything else. Right?
Prescriptions, everything.
Prescriptions, the supplies they need at the
Income,
jail, all of it. Yeah.
That's all our medical supplies, everything.
So not to get too far off, but when we take an out-of-county inmate to the ER room, do we charge that other county for the transport costs too?
Yes. If we transport them, it's $20 an hour per officer. That's part of the contract with Bosco County.
Thank you for this. Are you good, Commissioner Scott?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Item I, COVID-19 exposure notification policy.
Okay, we had a situation over the holiday weekend. One of our employees reported positive test for COVID. Turned out there was absolutely no exposure within the building, giving all the timing of it. So that led to me to question our attorney about the notification requirements. As you notice, or have noted for the last couple of years, every time somebody reports a COVID case, we do an email blast, sometimes a text message notifying our employees that there's been a confirmed case. That was all based on emergency rules that my OSHA had adopted early on in the whole COVID situation. Just again, an abundance of caution, making sure employers notified employees when there was an exposure. Well, it appears now that that emergency rule has expired, but our COVID plan still has the language in there. And you've got the input from the county attorney. While we would probably not be in any immediate or have any immediate concern about not notifying, the fact that we have a policy that says we will notify could be problematic for us in the future. So what I'd like to do, if you're agreeable, I'll just bring that as part of a resolution to the next meeting that we relax that rule and not do or not be required to do the notifications. Now, I'm going to tell you up front, I don't have a stake in this, whether we notify or not. It's very easy for me to send out the email blast. So if the board is more comfortable that we continue that policy, that's fine. Then we don't have to do anything. We'll just continue to do that. But we did pass a resolution the last time we amended the policy for the larger umbrella. If the CDC no longer recommended masks, for instance, that we would go along with that. And that's what we say right now. And I'm just thinking out of consistency because my OSHA relaxed their emergency rules, and we would want to do that as well, just out of consistency. But again, I don't have a horse in the race. If you'd rather we can put the notification, that's very easily done.
Commissioner Newbecker?
I think most businesses have already done this. They've relaxed these rules and policies. We got no problem with anyone.
With what? Not notifying?
It's not notified.
I agree.
Commissioner Serbrook?
I agree.
Mr. Scott?
I agree.
What are you guys agreeing with?
Just relax.
Yep.
Yeah.
And to be consistent with what we've done. That's notification. That's my OSHA.
What are the department heads wanting to do?
I haven't actually approached anybody else. I mean, this was something that actually came up this week, so it's just you so far.
I think it should be individualized based. I agree, stopping the emails, but if individuals want to notify their department heads, that's on them. I think that's where we're at right now. Okay, so you need another resolution for that, correct?
Right,
And if any department heads have issues with that, they'll bring that to you.
sure.
I think this is just like back in the old days, before 2020, if you got the flu, you told your boss, I got the flu. You know, somebody may not want to be by me because I got the flu.
How did the flu clinic go over?
Well, we had a little over a dozen employees that went through in what, an hour or two, however long we had that going, but pretty consistent with the last 2 years.
Okay. Item J, High Banks property update. Anything?
I reached out to 2 different conservancies and have not heard back from them. I don't know if because of,
Holidays?
because of Thanksgiving. I don't know how often I don't know their staffing levels. I don't know what, I
Do
just,
you know who you are? Who'd you reach out to?
Michigan Nature Conservancy and Bosper, BOSPER. Land Conservancy.
Any other contacts that you guys would know of? Have you guys heard from anybody?
No,
I didn't make the Mills Township meeting. It was on the 15th. I was in Woods.
You were otherwise occupied.
Yeah.
Did you have any success?
No, I hit one with my car.
Congratulations.
Have you heard anything from Mills Township? Anyways, okay, so what do you guys want to do?
I'm sorry, I was just gonna ask about the other property as well. Did you hear back from the lawyers on?
Well, they have the material, they're putting together an agreement for us. I haven't actually heard back from West Branch Township since then. They're very excited.
When's their meeting? So they had a meeting since we met?
Their meeting was 2 weeks ago, Wednesday. So they got one coming up, be a week from this coming Wednesday.
Yeah, the last two West Branch Township DDA meetings I've been to, we haven't had a quorum, so we just sat there for a little bit. Talked a little bit, but we couldn't actually have
Make a
meetings.
decision. But they know that this is being discussed.
Yeah, they're very excited about it.
So do you guys have any different opinions on the High Bank property update, or what do you guys want to do with this?
If Mark can find somebody to talk to, I'll wait.
I'm trying.
Nobody's really using it right now, I don't think.
No, probably not.
Probably not putting canoes in.
It'd be fun to sled down the hill with a canoe though.
What do you guys think about at least somebody touching, maybe no canoe liveries are open, but at least touching base with one of them? I will try. Touch base with them, just to see if that would be an option. Just be interesting to see what they would say.
Who's that?
Probably White's.
Oh,
I'll see if I'm able to contact them. Just so we have information. I will. Is that okay?
I'd just soon the realtor call them.
Okay,
But if some nature place wants to take it, that's fine with me. I don't care. Other than that, list it and let the realtor call.
well, I think
Okay.
I think before we go forward, my rationale behind that is, I don't disagree, the realtor would do all of that, but just to make a phone call to see if that's something they would even be interested in.
Go ahead.
and then what do we want for deed restrictions? You know. Do we wanna-
So you tell me not to reach out or reach out?
I'm just saying,
Go ahead.
I'm not saying you can't reach out, I'm saying deed restrictions so that it has to be maintained as a canoe livery for the county.
Agreed, but I think we at least need to just ask them if that's anything that they would even be interested in, that property.
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying if we sell it to anybody.
Agreed. Would you recommend me doing that or not?
With a organization like that, I don't immediately see the harm in it.
Okay, I'm asking.
Yeah. Because we probably would be doing, you're almost talking to a quasi-public agency that way, so I think you're okay.
Okay.
If we start talking about negotiating with a private party, that's a different.
You know, we're not talking
ballgame.
dollars or anything like that.
Right.
Just interest. Is there any
Yeah.
interest? Is this something that we don't know
We still got to know.
until we make a decision whether with what, at least we know some options. Commissioner Bond? Tell me you don't have an opinion. What is your
I don't,
opinion?
I mean, I'd hate to see it turned over to, I understand Craig, but I'd hate to see it turned over to an individual. I don't know how you could turn it over, sell it to an individual and then tell them, well, the public's still got to be able to use it for, if I bought a piece of property, I sure in the hell don't want anybody coming down there to launch canoes and all that, so.
I think that's our last option,
But
but
that's the last option. I would hope somebody would reach out that Mark's got a hold of and give it to them.
agreed. Do you disagree with at least reaching out to
Oh, no.
delivery to see if that's something they
No.
are even interested
Oh,
in?
that'd be fine.
Okay. You'll stay on it, Commissioner Serbrook,
Yes, ma'am.
and I'll get on it.
All right.
Item K,
Look at deal.
GPS update.
Last but not least, Tom.
I don't know.
I was still entertaining the MERS distribution loan for a snowmobile, but
You are what?
I was entertaining the MERS loan for a snowmobile, but
You want one too?
no, absolutely not. I can't see buying one of them. I got the gadget last Monday. I've been actually messing with it on my own pickup. I got some alerts and whatever configured. Yep, I gotta make sure it works with the buses though. I'm gonna head out to transit probably tomorrow morning and plug it in and make sure that it works. And if it does, then I'll have you guys some pricing for the next meeting, for next week, the whole meeting. Right now, that this doesn't include the patrol cars, but I counted 14.
I'll be right back.
Okay, go ahead.
14 buses, 2 building and zoning vehicles, 2 transport vans, a probate van, animal control and maintenance.
And if that's the case, 21 vehicles, it's 125 for the device. $15 a month for the subscription, so we got 26.25 and devices. $315 a month is $37.80 a year.
Amazing. It's made in South Africa, not China.
Oh, gee,
I'm
don't even get me
impressed.
going.
So only $33,780
A year,
per year?
yep, subscription plus 26.25 for the device.
And how often would these have to be replaced?
As long as they last, I'm not sure a lifetime on them, but
What's the hair going on?
that's not mine.
Was it mine?
Hair? I agree, it definitely wasn't. Did you pull him it today?
The two devices that I had here at the last meeting, I haven't gotten a power cord for the one yet. And I reached out to him. He told me it was coming. He'd let me know a date. I sent him an email, said, hey, can you give me an update on that power cord? And he replied, he said, I'm still working on it. So as far as the patrol car connectivity goes, I'll work on it later, I guess. I mean, as long as these work with buses, I'm confident we can go forward with these. If it's unplugged, it sends an alert as long as the alert's set up. So if anybody pulls it out of the port, it sends me an alert. I got here this morning, I set up an alert to let me know when it's plugged back in. Obviously, I haven't plugged it back in yet, so I'll see if I get a message when I plug it back in.
And we have the data to be able to support these devices.
Yes. Yeah,
Without any-
it's all cloud-based.
Yeah, I have no idea what that means.
Some server farm in Nebraska.
Probably not US-based. We'll see.
Any questions?
We can install those on all of our vehicles, and then the other devices, as far as getting it implemented to 911, we're still waiting on the.
Yeah, I gotta wait I want to try both those devices first. The one that I'm actually waiting on the power cord for is cheaper per device, so they both handle the same. They're both a cellular service subscription. But obviously, if we can get by with the cheaper devices, that's better. And the Sierra device that I'm waiting on the power cord for, I was told this, I didn't pull it apart, but the other devices, the Cradle Point, they both use the same chips. They actually use Sierra chips in both those devices. Sierra makes the chips for the Cradle Points. So I'm kind of curious to see how the Sierra stands up. And as far as, and from an IT standpoint of remote connectivity, I haven't been successful with the Cradle Point yet. It's only seeing one of our networks. I need to be able to see three. So I was working with our firewall vendor for over an hour, and I was working with Cradle Point for over an hour and still never made any progress. So I'm waiting on the power cord to see how the other device performs in that perspective. If it's easier to configure and it works better, I'm all for it.
Where do you plug that in the car?
Actually, right underneath the dash, depends on where the port is. If you look underneath your vehicle or underneath your dash, you'll see a port for
There's
this.
a diagnostic port in all of them.
I can put it on yours if you want.
I don't have mine. It's down at Laners.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
That's fine. That's on my way home. I'll pop it in.
Morning.
Jack me. I'm good.
So will you have a cost estimate for us to maybe make a resolution for by the next meeting or
Next regular meeting or next committee, the whole meeting?
next regular meeting?
I can try, yeah, as long as these work with the buses. Yep, I will.
Good. Now I have a question before you leave. We're good with the GPS. As far as our next item is a time clock update.
Yeah.
We had discussed when this was originally brought up about a month ago or whatever it was. As far as the distance where somebody's able to clock in. Pardon me?
Geofencing.
I don't know the terminology. Clock in. You were looking at a radius. Did
I mean,
I thought,
I don't have any admin rights to that. Only Tim and Tracy do.
but I thought there was a question on it. There was a distance or a radius as far as where somebody's able to clock in.
It's a 1/10 of a mile. I know that from when we first got it.
Well, that's one. I can go anywhere. Right?
Yeah, right.
Not like all access, range free, whatever you want to call that. We have others that are, as close as we can approximate to county boundary. You know how many miles that is. My impression is we can almost pick our number. So if we want it within 10 miles, we can say within 10 miles, within 2 miles.
Within 2 miles of
across the
what?
Street.
The county building?
Of the county building. Well, we've got probably, coordinate probably with this building. I'm gonna guess it's this building, because that's where.
I think Tracy set them up as us, the annex, and I think transit. I don't know if they're using the phones out at transit or not, because they do have a time clock. I don't know if there's a radius on transit employees. I was only part of the first two meetings for this time clock system. I'm an employee too. I don't have admin rights to the program. I'm restricted to what I can clock in and out.
Are you able to clock in? Could you clock in from home?
I could,
So then there's not a radius on yours.
right, I'm free range.
Okay.
I can, and I do,
Yeah, can you have Tracy come in?
but I do it off the website when I'm working, like the commissioners meetings. I clock in at home off of our website because I can't do it on my phone. Because I'm not within a radius of this building.
So then how come you're not within a radius and he is?
Because that's the way my
This is
identifier
that way.
was.
Okay.
Yeah, he's boss.
He's my boss.
Frankly, probably that's what you want for anybody that's exempt from the overtime, so their salary.
Sorry,
If you
babe.
have somebody hourly based, well, now this becomes important.
Yep.
Okay, so where are you when you check in for work? Because some of the people work, the entire county, so as long as you're on this side of the county line, you're good, you punch in. As far as transit, I think they all are doing the time clock.
I think they are too.
There really is no reason for them to.
His raise salary, I guess, I don't know.
They would be salaried, but the bus drivers are definitely hourly. Got part-time and full-time, but they're all hourly. In fact, our union contracts pretty much dictate who's hourly and who isn't, so it's pretty easy to identify that way.
Why would we continue to use a time clock when we have this? So,
Well, the time clock, for instance, with transit, you've got to pick up your bus there. You're not taking that home. So anybody coming in, it literally is fingerprint based. You touch that, you're clocked in, you're
most of our employees that work here in Courthouse have to come here too.
right. Yeah, and they do the same thing.
Hi, Tracy, have a seat.
Still need me?
We were all going.
Hurry on. You have to go talk.
Here, you can't do your work.
I understand that, but what if they're at a conference? They can't clock in then.
Well, in that case, then they get what their department head made.
Oh, just tell them.
Exception.
So what?
She wants
I
snowmobile.
want a snowmobile too.
Oh, no.
No, I got rid of my snowmobile to get an ATV, so whatever.
So the time clock, I guess, what, did you set up radiuses? I guess, tell me
So
what,
during implementation, yes, we set up radiuses for what the parameters were for people to use their phone to clock in.
okay,
In case anybody didn't want to use what's there. So I think we set the 10th of a mile, I think I heard Tom say. I've already caught, I can literally see where everybody punches in, and I've caught people punching in at the parking lot. They're already late, they're punching in at the parking lot so that it doesn't look like they're even later, actually walking in the building. So you start expanding your radius, who knows where they're gonna be punching in, but now if you're expanding your radius, I don't know if we can separate it for different groups.
We already are.
Well, no, because the only people that punch in are the steel workers.
What do you mean?
Courts aren't either?
They don't have to punch in. They have input set up,
I guess, so further clarify,
So
who's
there's-
punching in?
steel workers.
Which is
And-
who?
And transit, register of deeds, equalization clerk, treasurer, and myself. I mean,
Building, zoning.
building and zoning,
So who's, okay, maybe this would be easier. Who's
Upstairs.
not clocking in?
courts, sheriff, and jail.
So why are the courts not?
I think when I talked to Tim, they're set up as a salary amount in their
Oh.
contract,
So their salary.
even though they're hourly, because we have to keep track of their hours for lead time. So they have to enter, they go in whenever they go in and just enter that, yes, I worked this day for this many hours. That's all they have to tell me. So,
So there's
And-
still no way to track this.
no, I mean, we're taking their word that they're,
Agreed to do it, yes, there is. I mean, they could be punching in like everybody else, but their argument is, well, we're salaried, so it's, what's the point? I would want to clarify, as long as we're having this conversation, that just because they're salaried doesn't mean they're exempt from overtime. That's a different question. So the employees that are in the courts would be frankly classified, many of them, as clerical workers, and those workers are not exempt from overtime requirements in the Fair Labor Standards Act. So if they do work 40, even though they're salaried, they would be eligible for time and a half. To complicate it even more, we work 35 hours a week, So that 35 to 40 would not constitute overtime. So if they're working in there, there's no additional compensation for those 5 hours. So I suppose that would be considered an advantage to the employer. So,
Yeah, so the time cards, when they come into me, there's this column called 035. Because of the fact that if by chance they work like 36 hours, they're at a conference, whatever, they work 36 hours, they're not gonna get overtime for that hour over 35, but it's more than what their normal work week is. So this is where this comp time comes in play, where they can comp that hour and use it like later in the week or the next week before the end of the pay period type thing. So they would work an hour less another day, just so that they're still at their 70 hours at the end of the week.
So who's monitoring that comp time?
It's done through the supervisor. So it goes in and if they want to comp it, the supervisor has to do it. They are not allowed to do it in the courts or in maybe courts. Brock has to do the clerk's office. So say, sometimes I do. I work through my lunch on Monday because it's payroll day. And that's right when payroll comes to me is at lunchtime. So I just work through my lunch and then I'll take either a longer lunch later in the week or leave a half hour early, whatever I gotta do to comp or not comp that hour or comp it, whatever I gotta do. So Brock has to actually move it for me. The supervisor, the steel workers are not allowed to move their own comp. Their supervisor has to do it. The jail, I think, somehow is set up different because, and I don't know exactly, you guys do the approval. Do you guys have to move it or are they able to move it?
Or as
The comp time, anything that's over their,
anything that's over 40, if they
Mhm.
decide they want to comp, they comp.
they're able to
They're
push that on theirs and then you guys have to approve it.
Correct.
So it's just set up a little different because they don't punch a clock. So anyone that punches a clock, the supervisor has to do it.
When there was some auditing last year, there was some issues with some comp time that was found, correct?
Mhm.
And since that took place, there's been no changes with how things are being done in those departments.
Well, it's all recorded in overtime. So they've got the reports now, so hopefully they'll tell me whether it is or isn't working. But everything is recorded through overtime, not on a little piece of paper or more in somebody's mind back in whatever, however it was before. It's all done through overtime. So yes, it is kind of being tracked a little bit because you can see when they're comping it and when they're using it.
But it's manually put in
Um,
by the supervisor.
It's not manually put in because it's already recorded. It's
Okay.
recorded in this column called 035 or 040, which is either over 35 or over 40 hours. So it's in the system. If they don't choose to move it to comp, they're gonna get paid for it. It's part of their time card. But because our policy is we work 35 hours, if they work 37 for 1 week, whatever, they go to a conference, they work a
Right.
couple days or hours over. They either get paid for it or they comp it, and then they just leave a couple hours early later in the week or the next week or whatever. I think it's set up. They're supposed to use it within the next pay period or something. like that.
How many comp hours or how many hours are they able to? Comp?
There's rules for each contract.
I personally feel like we got this software. It doesn't sound like we're utilizing it to the best of its ability. I personally think all hourly employees, I think that there should be a way that we can figure this out to where, it can be utilized for all hourly employees' salary. I agree. I think that they're exempt. I think that's why we went with this. I think that would be easiest to track liability wise, fair, I guess. That's my opinion on it. Commissioner Serbrook.
I agree, but they have elected officials that don't necessarily have to follow the rules that everybody else
Don't
does.
have to, but I
It'd
think
be nice if they did,
correct.
but again, because they're elected officials, they can choose to run their office the way they see fit, and we don't have a whole lot.
Well, the public needs to know that.
I agree. I wish everybody would use it, yes.
So what do you think about a policy, which you were gonna, has the attorney had a chance, have you had a discussion with the attorney on this?
not in the last week, I haven't, but yeah, he's putting something together like we requested, but
I asked him to go forward with a policy and procedure, reach out to our attorney, so then at least we have a policy and procedure in place. that is what we're requesting, whether or not they choose to do it.
I agree.
Commissioner Scott,
It's all based on, this whole concept is based on accountability,
correct?
accountability for everything. If an department has an employee that wants to come in late, like you mentioned there has been some people late. Somebody's coming in late and disciplinary action has to be taken. And they file a grievance against us. How are you going to prove? How does the department head prove that they've been late? If I take a look at the time reports and they all show the same thing, that they're showing up on time and leaving on time and getting paid for that, then then it's my word again. It's word against word. If you go as far as termination, and then they turn around and come back to us with a labor lawyer and sue us, once again, where's the accountability? You know, this just a control, just as it is. We've had companies come here and tell us our controls are loose. We know that from previous years. You know, we're getting away from notebooks and memories and things like that. This is accountability. I've looked at some of these timesheets and there's accountability. I mean, we're seeing it. It can happen. I wish that everybody would buy into this idea of it's accountability. It's not this, we're not trying to catch somebody, but we're trying to protect our assets, and people are our assets too. And our liabilities, we got to protect our liabilities. You know, I mean, it's just accountability, just like GPS. I had this talk with the undersheriff the other day, and I says, you know, I'm not concerned where the car is, where the building department is right now, but when that contractor calls up and says he doesn't show up at my jobs to inspect me, we can go back and show right there. Yes, he does. It's right on the GPS. He was there. He was there at that time, that day, and he went back the next day. So don't tell me he's not there. You're not there. You know,
Thank you.
it's accountability.
Mr. Vaughn, oh,
Yeah.
Mr. Vaughn,
Well, I agree with Craig, accountability, but I also agree with Mark that the elected officials are gonna do what they want to do, whether you put something in order to say that's what you want done, they still don't have to follow that. You know, one example, say for the sheriff, is the officer that's going to Whittemore Prescott.
Mhm.
He's not gonna drive all the way into here.
No, but
A
that's an
tenth of a
example.
mile to,
But an exception can be
An
made.
example where we can,
well.
You don't treat everybody because one guy can't do it.
Well, I'm not saying that, but there's a lot of the officers start from home or I think the building, they all come in, I believe, to get their vehicle to go out and do their inspections, but I bet you there's some done from when they start from home. Why would you?
so that
drive
we
all
make
the-
those individual.
So, you're gonna bump that out to 36 miles or whatever to cover the whole county so they
We can,
can punch in.
that's pretty simple.
Absolutely.
No?
I don't see a reason why we don't, use the phones to let people punch in. As hourly associate or hourly employees. I really think that consistency is important. And maybe you could get together with department heads and elected officials and see what they want to do, because more than anything, we need to be consistent with what we do. I think that's very important. And if they're documenting their time, whether they punch in at home or they punch in the office, wherever their place of work is, it's going to be tracked. Tracy's already finding people that are not in their place of work and they're punching in. We can see that there's a documented trail now, so we can verify it. it can be audited. If you don't have any of that and you're just pencil whipping hours down on paper, who's gonna tell you that you're wrong? Who's gonna be able to investigate it? Nobody. That's maybe things that we had to do in the past because we didn't have the technology, but now that we have the technology, why wouldn't we want to do that? To protect our own assets, to protect our own liabilities when, just as Craig described, you know, you get into a labor dispute, if you don't have this stuff to back you up, it's not gonna be good.
You don't have consistency of labor. We're a union employer. Okay, it's a little bit different than non-union employer,
Right?
okay? And we're across different
County.
unions, across different unions. So when you have this union, I can see the business agent coming in here. Why does that group doesn't have to do it? My group has to. You know? I mean, well. You know, what's the answer?
Tim, when's your next department head meeting?
I think next week, let's check.
Next Monday.
Can you just,
Actually, it's the 12th.
so can you discuss that with them and bring that back to us?
I could, it's an alternative, because we're really talking about a specific set of departments. That I talk to them individually. For instance, I would talk to the judges at the courts
Okay.
and say, listen, this is what our situation is. Would you consider and put it out there? Now, that one is going to get a little trickier because we do have contract language that we've negotiated. I got to make sure that we're.
So our
Right,
legal
but we
team will
should
be part of that
It'd have to
conversation.
be, ultimately, they would have to.
Okay.
Already spoken to the sheriff, you know, we've already had that conversation, and I believe those are the only two areas where we have people not clocking in. I think the other departments, and frankly, the departments on this floor, the treasurer, clerk, register of deeds, all employees there are part of the steelworker contract, and the steelworker contract is very specific. It says you will punch in. So those are taken care of. So it's really those two areas, the sheriff's office and the courts, that are operating differently than.
As far as range, I think that could be up to the elected official to decide, do I want this person to be able to punch in from 40 miles or
And I don't think
whatever?
we can separate the range per department. I think it's gonna be all or nothing. So if you open it up to so then that's, I don't know, you'll have to see if you can look at.
We have to be able to, because Tim's ranges from home.
Kind of a one-person show. That's.
Is there,
Again,
there's passwords and things
if
like
you're
that,
punching
isn't
in,
there?
Well, my department, Tim's an administrator.
Tim's salary anyway.
But she does it by department, like I'm in the IT department, I have my own group, yeah. There's gotta be a range.
You know how to
that's set by
change the
department.
range.
So if you open it up.
I don't
Got it up right now.
They all,
I don't know if you can change the range to say just these people have to be within so many. It was an all or nothing. It was either.
well, if you can do it by
But there's
person, then you
certain
can
sign-ins.
do it by person.
I would think so.
If the department head can actually go on the map themselves, I know I can. I'm assuming each department head can.
How do you get to the map?
I'd have to go- I don't know. I just happened to find it that one time I was looking and
So
I can.
you'll have a conversation with the judges and possibly the sheriff and then the sheriff again prior to
Sure.
next.
Yeah.
And with our attorney.
Yep.
Perfect. You guys good with that?
Anything that's convenient and we can still document our time, I think is a good thing.
Checks and balances and track and, yep, agreed. Okay. And you'll talk to the attorney too about a policy and procedure.
That's already in the works, so
Okay.
yeah. I'll invite.
Thanks, Tracy. Item 5, public comment. Is there any public comment in the room on any agenda items?
Okay.
Any public comment on the phone?
So, you're here.
Won't even. Any public comment on the phone? Item 6. Motion to adjourn. Motion with a support to adjourn at 10:38. All in favor? Opposed? Motion, and our next meeting is in the evening next week.
5 o'clock.
Don't forget, Commissioner Becker,
What? I already got it on my, yeah.
remind me.